Today I'm talking about one of the many times where I've been called into the emergency room at the hospital. As a kid, I was notorious for one thing, and that is all the times that I've got injured in sport or just other activities that involve me being physically active. So today's video is about the first time when I was 5 years old and I had to go to the emergency room for something pretty insane. So this all starts off when I was 5 years old, as I just said before, so this would have been, let me check, like 2010. This is 12 years ago because right now I'm 17. So as a 5-year-old, I really wasn't doing much with my life. I mean, why would you? You're literally 5 years old, so I wasn't even in school at this time, I'm pretty sure, because because I turned 6 in January, which basically means that I started my first year of school in January when I was 6. So I was 5 years old. I was literally still in kindergarten. I was just doing my thing, and I think it was the summer holidays, right? So it was the summer holidays just before I went back to school, and my parents were like, you know what? Why don't we send all the kids to basically my grandparents' house? Now my grandparents live like 3 hours away, so basically it was me, my sister, and my brother. All three of us went up to basically, I'm not going to say the name of the town, obviously, but we all went up to our grandparents' house. So we were there for probably about 2 weeks. And as we were up there, this is where the story time all starts. So we had dinner for the first few nights, we're just chilling, we're just doing our thing. I was basically just playing the Wii because, that was the thing back then, obviously, like 2010. I actually still play the Wii now, like, it's never gone out of fashion for me. The Wii and Wii Sports Resort and just Wii Sports will be the all-time GOAT games. Like, I've never played a game that's better than those two. So anyway, we're up there, we're just playing Wii Sports Resort, and one morning my sister's like, do you want to go out to the backyard? Like there's a swing set there, do you want to just hang out there for a bit? I said, yeah, okay, sure. So me and my sister, we end up going out to play on the swing set, and little did I know that would probably be one of the dumbest mistakes of my life. So we end up going out of the swing set, and we're just playing around for a little bit, I think my sister was like swinging me around for probably about 30 minutes, and we were just doing our thing. So we were basically swinging around, and then my sister decides to basically go inside and eat lunch for a little bit. So I'm out there and I'm swinging around, just doing my thing. Then my brother comes out and he's like, oh, do you want to come play soccer? Like, there's a soccer ball over here. I said, yeah, sure. So we end up going around playing soccer. Now keep in mind, at the time my brother was 2 years old, so it's literally just like kicking the ball around or whatever, and we're just playing soccer for a little bit. My sister comes back out, and she has the genius idea of coming back out and doing some like stupid acrobatic things. So my sister at the time was 11 years old, right? So she was 6 years older than me and about 9 to 10 years older than my brother. So she ends up going out to this swing set, and basically like she's like doing pull-ups on the top of the swing set. So basically how the swing set works is that there was basically like a bar on the top, and then there were 4 legs like holding that one bar down, and then so there were 2 swings. There were 2 swings in the middle of the bar, and it just basically worked like that. In hindsight, it's a pretty small swing set, but for a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old and an 11-year-old, it was basically all you needed. So we're swinging around for a bit, and then my sister starts doing pull-ups on like the top thing. So I'm like, oh, why don't I do that? I can beat my sister. So my sister's like, all right, I'll just pull you up. So she basically pulls me up, I grab onto the bar, and I start like trying to pull up, but obviously I'm 5 years old, like my arms are tiny, so I couldn't end up doing it, so I basically just dropped down, it is what it is. But then my sister kept doing it, then all of a sudden, right, so my sister's like a dancer or whatever, or she was a dancer, she was like basically like a gymnastics sort of person, so she ends up basically grabbing onto the bar with her legs and then swinging upside down, and it was great. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Me at 5 years old, I was like, how the hell has my amazing sister done something like that? Like that is crazy. So I end up trying to follow suit. I end up grabbing onto the bar, and I like, honestly, I was 5 years old, so I can't really remember the fine details, but I'll try to go over it as accurately as I can. So I end up grabbing onto the bar, right, and then I end up swinging my legs up to the top, and then I'm basically doing the same thing that my sister is. I'm swinging upside down on these bars, and I literally, the only thing that was stopping me from falling was my legs on the bar. Keep in mind, right, I'm 5 years old. I should probably not be doing that at age 5, and my sister, if you're watching this right now, I'm not gonna say your name for privacy reasons, but this is all your fault. The only reason this story time is happening is because of you. I'm joking, obviously, but anyway, so that ends up happening. We're we're both like sitting up there on the swings. We've both got our legs dangling off, and we're both hanging upside down. And she sat there. She's like, okay, how long do you think you can last? And I said, I reckon I can go forever. Like I think I'm feeling pretty strong here. And then not even 5 seconds later, right? Not even 5 seconds later, I start to feel like my grip sort of slip, because obviously, right, I was starting to sweat a little bit because I was hanging upside down on the swings. So I was hanging upside down, and I feel my legs start to slip a little bit, and then I start to like panic a little bit. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna fall. Okay, I'm gonna fall. 5 seconds later, what do you know? I fall off the swing, and so it was probably about a 2-meter drop. Okay, maybe not 2 meters, like 1.5 meters, because again, it was a pretty small swing, and I basically fall, and in midair, right, obviously as a 5-year-old, I was completely disorientated. I had no clue where I was. I don't know whether I was upside down, whether I was like going the right direction. So I end up falling and just hoping for the best. I literally shut my eyes. I'm like, please, for the love of God, can I not just can I please just, can this just be a safe fall? All right, I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry for making a mistake of swinging upside down. Can I just fall softly, please? And unfortunately, I did not fall softly. In fact, I fell pretty hard. So what ended up happening is that I ended up swinging backwards. So obviously, so that's why I was disorientated. I didn't fall on my head, so I basically fell like on my sort of stomach, but I fell sort of right a little bit. So I ended up twisting to the right, and then I ended up falling on my right elbow. And instantly, I'm like, oh my God, that hurt so badly. So I end up bawling my eyes out, right? Like, I'm crying so hard. I mean, you can't really blame me, right? I'm 5 years old and I've just broken my arm. So I sit there on the floor and I'm literally holding my arm. I'm literally sitting there crying. And my sister, right? My very helpful sister, instead of just coming down to me and saying, oh, what's wrong? She gets down from the swing and walks inside. And I'm like, are you serious? Why can't you just help me? Like, I was so pissed off. I was like, it was a mixture of being angry, sad, and just in pain. I was like, oh my God, I'm literally gonna die. Like this is the end of my life, you know? It's been a great 5 years, but this is it. I'm done. So I end up sitting there for probably about 10 minutes, just in the most amount of pain I've ever felt. I've never felt a pain this bad in my life because I've only been on the planet for 5 years. But bro, when I say this hurt. Like, this was so bad. And obviously, since I'm crying extremely loudly, right? My grandma comes out of the house and she literally comes over to me. Like, she sort of hobbles over to me. She's like, oh my God, like, Ricky, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'll sit there crying. I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Like, I just fell down. And she asked me what happened or whatever. I said, I was swinging upside down on the swing, and I'm in so much pain. Like, please get me to the hospital. I didn't even know what a hospital was at that time, but I still managed to just figure out that I should probably go to a doctor. So my grandma picks me up, right? Because obviously I'm too weak to literally get up. Like, I'm in so much pain at that point. So my grandma picks me up, puts me in the car, puts my seatbelt on, and she's like, okay, we're gonna go to the hospital, right? You're gonna be okay. Like you'll be fine. And I sat there, I'm like, okay, I hope so. Like, I was sitting there crying, and then all this time, right, my sister is inside, just like sitting there chilling. I'm like, oh, you little rat. So anyway, we end up going to the hospital, and so I end up sitting in the emergency room because I was in an extreme amount of pain. And I don't think my grandma really understood what happened because obviously I was 5 years old. Like, I was trying to get out the words to say what happened, but like, I was in so much pain. Like, it was extremely difficult for me to say it. So we end up going to the emergency room, and they end up calling my name. So they're like, Ricky, can you come with us? I obviously didn't know what I was there for, right? Because I don't know how to talk to people. I'm 5 years old. I don't know how to book appointments or anything like that. So I was sort of just following what my grandma was doing, and we end up going into this room, and it was basically just like this x-ray room. And the nurse ends up saying like, okay, all right, so what I need you to do, I need you to put your right elbow on this little mat here. And I tried to do it, but I was literally in so much pain that I literally couldn't move my elbow, and I said, no, it hurts too much. It hurts too much. So then the doctor basically just brings like the x-ray thing over to my arm, and basically I can't remember what she did, but she basically like sat me there for about 10 minutes. I think I took about like 15 x-ray pictures, and so she was like, okay, you guys can go back into the waiting room. I'll get the results sorted through in about like 20 minutes. Basically, she was just trying to test to see how my bone had like if my bone was broken in the first place, or if I was just a 5-year-old wuss who was just crying over like falling off a swing. So we end up going back into the emergency room for a little bit, and I sit there just still in so much pain. I'm like what? Why am I in so much pain? My grandma calms me down or whatever. Like my grandma's a legend for this one. Like, I love it a bit. Like, she literally sat there, she calmed me down or whatever. So we sit there for probably about 15 minutes, and then the nurse comes back into the emergency room, and she basically says, all right, Ricky, you can come back. Like we got some results for you. And the way she was looking, and the way my grandma like reacted to the way that she was looking, she was like, oh my God, no, are you serious? I didn't know what it meant at the time, but now looking back, I realized that she just realized some horrible news about my arm. So we end up going back into the nurse's room, and she basically like talks to my grandma for a bit. And obviously, like, so I have this learning condition that I didn't find out about until I was probably about 10 years old. But basically, whenever I'm in a loud environment, or like whenever someone is just talking at me for a long time, I don't really understand what they're saying. It's called auditory processing. You guys can look it up on the internet. Like, it's basically like this sort of hearing, like understanding speech disorder. It's pretty annoying, but you know, it is what it is. When I was 5 years old, I had no idea what they were saying. I was just sort of sitting there just like in pain. So the nurse ends up talking to my grandma for a little bit, gives some medication, you know, and she ends up saying, all right, Ricky, so we're gonna go get a cast for you. And at that point, I had no idea what a cast was, and then I end up asking my grandma, like, what's a cast? Like, what's going on? She basically says, all right, Ricky, so, you've broken your arm. I don't know how you've broken your arm, but you've actually managed to do it. And by that point, you know, like, the pain started to go down a little bit, so I ended up explaining, like, everything that happened to my grandma. I basically said, yeah, so I was swinging upside down on the swing. And she says, Ricky, like, why would you do that? Why would you ever think that's a good idea? And I said, I don't know, right? I'm 5 years old. I don't know what I'm doing. And she says, all right, you know, it is what it is. So we end up going into this room, this little room, and this woman, so this nurse basically just grabs my arm and basically puts it in like a 90-degree angle, and basically just starts like wrapping my arm up in this like wet, sort of like warm, like cast, moist thing. It was really weird. Obviously now I know it's just a plaster cast, and it basically goes on your arm to make sure that like you can't bend your arm and you can't break it even more. Because if you break your bones as a kid, like obviously it's easy to regenerate it, but like it's really hard to break your bones as a kid. So the nurse was doing everything she could to make sure that like the development of my arm wasn't like screwed over because of this one stupid thing that I did. So she puts the cast on, and you know, she's like, all right, you're all good. So just don't do any stupid physical activity for the next like 6 weeks. Just give your arm time to recover and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so I end up going back home. Well, not home, well, basically to my grandma's house. My sister's still just sitting there in the living room, just like doing nothing. And I literally walk into the room. My sister's like, oh my god, like what happened to you? And I said, you know what happened to me? I was swinging upside down on the monkey bars, just trying to copy you, and then look what happened to me. And she says, yeah, you should probably not do that from now on. So yeah, moral of the story, I mean, there isn't really a moral. I guess I was like 5 years old, so I didn't know what I was doing. But yeah, that was basically the time where I broke my arm. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed and you want to send me in story times, let me know in the comments down below. 200 likes in this video, and I'll do more story times of me going to the hospital, because I've got so much more for you. Like, I've been to the hospital so many times. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.